You're listening to Frankly Speaking Sports with Larry Frank on Northeast Streaming Sports.
Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Bullseye. I'm your host, Larry Frank, and so happy to be with you this evening. I'm just checking our feedback here on our network just to make sure you can hear us and everything does sound good. So once again, welcome to Bullseye. It's my pleasure to have you here. And boy, oh boy, do we have a lot to talk about this evening for you. In about 25 minutes, we're going to have former USF Great softball player Christie-Lee Chapman-Roge on with us. And what an unbelievable interview that is going to be. But before we go any further and talk about what has been just a huge weekend, let's welcome back my co-host, Bradley Lewis Walker, as we bring him in. He should be smiling up there in a second. There's his face. Bradley, how you doing tonight, buddy?
I'm doing good, Larry, despite of what happened to me a couple weeks ago. I'm doing good.
Yep, glad to have you back, buddy. And, we all been worrying about you, and we're glad to see you back here. A lot's going on this week in USF sports. We have, this year we didn't have the luxury of having all the fall sports at one time. So basically you and I would come on and we talk about football. And for the most part, talking about football was enough because there was a lot to talk about. But oh my goodness gracious, now that we have a full, list of sports going on in the spring, what an incredible weekend. It's been some high points, been some low points, been some upsets this weekend as far as USF sports goes. But I want to start out with, and, it's only right that we do start out with the women's basketball team. I mean, over and over again, no matter what adversity they face, they always seem to prevail. And before we even get into the two games they won this week, before we talk about how they played, you have to go ahead and give Coach Jose Fernandez, a lot of credit because you and I both know. I mean, we haven't played. I mean, I tell you right now, if I pick up a basketball and go to shoot it, it's going nowhere near the net. It's been that long since I've gone ahead and shot a basketball. But when you look at how amazing it is for these ladies to have, some of them a little bit longer, 30, 31 days off, and to come back, and it was a tough game, the first game, versus a team they were much better than. But you got to give them credit for hanging in there, playing well and beating Cincinnati. I mean, you got to give some credit to Jose Fernandez there.
Yeah, Larry, I did happen to see the other day that he's up for Coach of the Year. And I should, not to be biased on here or anything, but I think he should win that landslide. They only have one loss. They're undefeated in the AAC. And I think if I'm looking at the schedule right, they only have 4 games left. Is that all, or do they go beyond?
Yeah, no, you're right. I think it's a home and away series against UCF at the end of the year, and I want to say they got Temple mixed in there a game or two. So you're right. The season, you got to remember, we're in March already, baby. March Madness is coming up, and guess what? Our USF Bulls are going to be in it, the women's basketball team.
Yeah, they have, Larry, they have at Temple, at Houston, and the home and home against UCF to end the season. Yeah, that's what's on the schedule.
But Bradley, if you look, they come back, they beat Cincinnati. Cincinnati only 4-14, but I don't care about the record. Anytime you take 30 days off, the continuity, and people don't remember, this is a team that was faced with COVID. Pretty much the whole team, 4 of their players were not back yet due to protocol. And they were relying on some bench players, but to not play together for that long and come back and just be able to put up a win, number one, it shows you why they're number 12 in the nation. But Bethy Manunga, what can you say about this lady? We constantly, we'll talk about her in a little while, but 19 points, 14 rebounds. Sydney Harvey, 23 points, 4 assists. Eliza Penzin, 11 points, 9 assists, 4 rebounds. The Bulls only shot, Bradley, 34.9 from the field, okay? They only hit 5 3-pointers. Yet, when you can play it not as well as they played and still win a basketball game like that, that's when you know things are falling in place for your team.
Yeah, Larry. I mentioned this last night on the Sunshine State Sports Jabber that I was talking about USF towards the end of the show. But yeah, I mean, you look at the field goal percentage. They only shot 34%. They only shot 17%, guys, from the 3-point line. And again, if everybody follows college basketball, whether it's men's or women's, everybody lives and dies by the 3-pointer. And this team still won by 4 points with 4, pivotal players out with COVID. And again, like Larry said, they hadn't played a game in 30 days, guys. So, like I said, if Coach Fernandez doesn't win Coach of the Year, I don't know who else would take it, in my opinion.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Then they come back, Bradley, Saturday night. They're the continuity slowly coming back. USF is now 13-1. 13-1. The only game, buddy, Baylor is the only game they lost. They won 78-69 over a very good Tulane Green Wave team that was 14-7. So they're not this little slouch team. Listen to this, buddy. Bethy Manunga not only wins Honor Roll for Player of the Week, she also won Academic Player of the Week. She went ahead, pumped in 17 points. Listen, 17 points, 17 rebounds in this game. It's our 18th career double-double as a USF Bull. Sydney Harvey comes up, 16 points. Alina Sinecki, 13 points. Shea Leverett, 10 points, 9 rebounds. So another person coming in. But listen to some of these stats. They out-rebounded Tulane 20-11 on the defensive side of the ball. So they weren't giving Tulane second shots. They also 12 steals, and they created 14 turnovers, which is huge, as you know, in any game. That was their 17th straight win over Tulane. And then this game was 30-30 at halftime. It was a close game. USF got off to start, then Tulane came back, made it 30-30. But to start off the third period, Elena Sinicki, who just came back from COVID, we were talking about, hits a 3-pointer to start the second period, and this team never trailed again. Now, they will play Temple, like you said, tomorrow at 3:30 p.m. But when we talk about coaching, and we talk about coaching and how much it means to a team, like you said, nobody Nobody, I don't care what team you are in the NCAA women's basketball, has a better argument for Coach of the Year than we do at USF. Let's listen to Coach Fernandez after the game that night.
All right. We have Coach Fernandez joining us now. Coach, you want to start out with an opening statement, and then we'll take questions.
These last two games, we've had.
All right, we're going to go ahead and get Bradley Lewis on. It sounds like that tape is skipping a little bit, so I don't want to go ahead and put that on. But, and this is the thing that bothers me. And before we get to the men's basketball, Bradley, and you and I talk all year long about this, whether it's football, basketball, baseball, whatever sport it may be. But I'm driving Saturday. Now listen to my dilemma, okay? I turn on the radio. I figured, okay, USF is playing a doubleheader in baseball. USF softball is playing a game. The men's basketball team is playing a game. The women's basketball team is playing a game. The men's soccer team is playing a game. Come on, turn on a radio station, at least on AM. You're going to get something on there, at least a USF sport. What happens? I turn on the radio, and all I get to listen to is Kansas playing Texas Tech in a basketball game that has no meaning for the fans here in Tampa, Florida. And it really, really bothers me, and it does, that when we have, okay, take for granted we may not have some of the teams playing so much up to par, yet they're still our team. Second of all, you have the number 12 team in the nation, which arguably is much better than the 12th ranked team. But they've been sitting there because of this COVID issue they've had, and they don't put them on radio here. It just doesn't make sense. You want these fans involved. Everybody is missing the boat when you talk about Champa Bay and Titletown, Tampa, or whatever you want to word it. We have a team right before our very eyes called the USF Women's Bulls basketball team that is in the thick of a championship. And I'll tell you right now, they're going to make a run at it.
Yeah, actually, Larry, it's funny you bring that up. If you guys didn't get a chance, I did interview Tony Greer last night on Sunshine State Sports Jabber. I brought that to his attention that a lot of times the reason why USF isn't as popular as the Florida States and Miami's is, like you just said, Larry, you had multiple teams playing across this landscape for USF, and not one of them was on. So the only way to listen to that stuff would have been to go on iHeartRadio and listen to Bulls Unlimited and Bulls. I'm sure that they both were on some game that day, but it's disappointing that you have a basketball team. The ladies basketball team is ranked 12th in the country. They've won, I'm looking at the schedule right now. I don't see them losing another game. I don't see them losing to Houston, Temple, or UCF, even though I know UCF's a good basketball team too in women's basketball as well. So, but to me, it is disappointing that, we're trying to build a fan base, but yet you don't air any of the games, so no one can watch them and no one knows anything about them. And then what'll happen now, Larry, is we'll go into the tournament and they'll make a wave, and then all of a sudden then it'll be, they'll get national attention, and then all of a sudden it will be on TV. But that's
and everyone's going to be going, yeah, where has this been? Where has this been? Where has it been? That's what everyone's going to say. And what happens at the end of the day is, okay, I lived in Gainesville before, okay, home of the University of Florida. Every single day there's a radio show on about the Gators, no matter what sport it is. Anytime there is a game, I don't care if it's water polo, they are at least putting it on radio as a sport for USF. I've heard gymnastics, soccer, you name it. Not just USF. People are going to go, not just University of Florida. People are going to go, come on, Larry. Is that fair? treating them like University of Florida. Yes, it is. They are a Division I school, just like University of South Florida. You go to Tallahassee, same thing with the Seminoles. Miami, same thing with the Hurricanes. I lived in Arkansas for 6 months, Fayetteville, right where the Arkansas Razorbacks. It doesn't matter. You have 2 or 3 radio stations every single day that is talking about Arkansas athletics. It doesn't matter. And, USF, and we had Michael Kelly on a couple of months ago, and he said some good things. I respect him very much for coming on. But at the end of the day, he owns this just as much as the radio stations own this. He wants this big facility, which they're about to build. They want this. But you know what? The only way you're going to be able to pay for this stuff that you want that is very nice and beautiful is to keep fans interested in your athletic department. And right now, you did a major dissatisfaction to the USF fans by not allowing them the ability to listen. He'll say, well, you can go to Bulls Unlimited. And I give those guys so much credit. They do a terrific job. I love all those people. I love listening. I believe it's Derek Sharp that does some of those games. Love listening to them. But they can't do it alone. It's one network. One guy. You got to have multiple platforms doing different things for you. And there was a big upset this weekend in soccer, the war on I-4. How many people know about it? No one, because it's not being publicized the way it should be. And this is something that has irked me for a long time, and you know that. But if we want to get big and we want to start acting like a major university, it's got to start with the people on the board at USF allowing this team to have the ability to get the publicity they deserve by getting their name out there and being on certain radio platforms. So that now tomorrow night, you want to watch the game, you know what you got to do? You got to go home and watch it on ESPN+. What happens to those people at 3 o'clock in the afternoon that are working that want to listen to it on radio? It should be easily accessible. That's something that is made so damn difficult that people say, the hell with this, I'll find out the score later.
Well, yeah, and Larry, another thing, I know you've asked me even off air, you have your Lightning flag and your Bucks flag seen behind you guys. You're wondering, I have a green screen behind me. But what I'm saying is, it's hard to find a USF flag. I've been unable to find one without going online and ordering one. It's difficult. Now, I haven't had an opportunity to walk to the bookstore. I work not too far from the USF St. Pete campus, so I could walk down there and see if I could get a flag, but I'm not guaranteed that I'm going to get one, and that's disappointing too, because once again, like you said earlier, this is supposed to be the champion bay, the Lightning winning the Cup, the Bucks winning the Super Bowl, but, again, no one's publicizing the university that stands here, and that's USF. And I know people are gonna say, "Oh, well, you got the University of Tampa too," but University of Tampa is not Division I. So again, we gotta put a stand on this and get these guys more publicized in the nation's eye, not just the Tampa Bay area, but everybody, and let them know that we have a pretty good, damn good university in Tampa at USF.
And we talked about the flag. That's yet why I don't have one. And even go beyond that, one of the comments that was made when we had Michael on is that, well, stores carry on inventory what they're going to sell. That's business. We understand that. We know that. But my question should have been back, and I probably let the fans down by not asking this question to him, is why the hell aren't we in higher demand, Michael Kelly? Okay, the stores like Dick's Sporting Goods or whatever sporting goods are around may not have a bunch of USF stuff because they're not selling it. My question should have been, why the hell aren't you making it happen, Michael, with your publicity and your media people to get more people involved so they want to go to the store and they want to be part of the success this terrific basketball team's having? It's a shame. It's a letdown to the people going to his university, and we love them. I try all the time to get people on here. Michael comes on, no problem. But it's even fighting teeth sometimes for them to allow certain people on our show when we're trying to promote them, not hurt them. And yet it seems like I don't see you going anywhere else and putting your people on the air to get the publicity that we're trying to do. We've had so many great guests, former guests, that love being on this show. Imagine what it would do for some of these kids that are playing to be appreciated a little bit more and get more notoriety among the Tampa Bay, St. Pete, Clearwater, and etc. areas for what they do for USF athletics. It's just a shame. It needs to be rectified. And, I don't care how many people share this to the athletic department at USF. I love USF. I will always love USF. But I'm just venting with some of my frustration that I know I'm not the only one that has. And I know I'm right because, like you said, we've talked about this, Bradley. But it's got to be rectified, and we got to do something to get us more notarized, like you said, by the entire nation. And here on Bullseye, we have offered and we will continue to offer to do whatever we can to make this happen. But we can't do it alone. It takes a team effort to win. That's why it's a team sport. Now, before we go ahead and get our guest on, about 3 minutes away, let's real quickly knock out men's basketball. And then after the interview, we'll touch up a little bit on some of the other sports because we got so much. Men's basketball came back, did not play well versus on the Warren I-4. We'll run that down real quickly. That was an 81-65 loss, but we did see the emergence of Alexa Yetner with 16 points, 15 rebounds. David Collins had 13 points, but USF, talk about shooting from the field, Bradley, 31.7 from the field, only made, like you said, you live and die by the three-pointers. They only made 5 three-pointers that game. But they were outplayed. They seemed like in that game, they were 40-34 out-rebounded. But in the first game, it seemed like they kind of was out-muscled a little bit. They just didn't seem to have it. And once again, just like the ladies, the men have had them off as well due to COVID. But, I thought it was really impressive on Sunday. They moved to 8-8 by being Temple, a 4-10 team, but they won a game they should have won, and I was proud of them. Xavier Castanda, 18 points. He was once again a little free throw. He was 6 for 6 from the free throw line. David Collins, 14 points. Yetner, 12 points. USF in this game, 40%. They hit 9 3-pointers. USF had 7 steals, caused 17 turnovers, and they had 19 defensive rebounds. So when you look at this game, this is a game a little different than the I-4 game. They dominated more and got a lot more physical. And this is a team, again, that doesn't have a big schedule left. They play tomorrow, 7 p.m. I think that's in Tampa versus Temple as well. So, that game will be tomorrow.
That game, I think, Larry's on ESPNU, I think, tomorrow.
And somebody's radio or TV is on. I hear double talking, but then you got the physical presence of Michael Durr was just amazing. But when you look at this game, it just shows you what happens when you can create 17 turnovers in a basketball game. What that does for the men's team, Bradley, is it's basically a 4-point. The team comes down, doesn't score, and then they give you an opportunity to score yourself, which is a 4-point difference. So a completely different game, completely different result. And, in a season that's been very unique and very weird, we got to give the men's basketball team some credit.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, Larry, I keep, having to bring this up, but COVID's the issue. I mean, come on, guys. We all know that. There's nothing any of us can do about it. But, that's a big reason. When we started talking about them, they were started to be in the middle of the pack and stuff like that. So, right now they're at 500. They could still make a pretty good year out of this if they can win, say, 3 out of their last 4. that would be great, to win 3 out of their last 4 and finish the season, 11-9. That would be awesome. We'll have to wait and see how that goes. But like you said, it's good to look. You're looking at how many minutes Durr and Yetna had, 31-24 for them. But then you look at the field goal, for Durr, he was only 2 for 11. That's definitely got to change a little bit. But again, you still got David Collins playing well, and this team, as I talked to Tony last night, Coach Gregory's got, he's been doing the best job he can with what he's got. And yes, you got to give them some credit at the end of the day as well.
All right. We're going to talk more about some of the other spring sports. We're going to talk about soccer and golf and a little bit about tennis after our interview with Lee. But, the next young lady was an unbelievable. And when I say unbelievable, if you didn't get an opportunity to watch her play, you really missed something. Because not only was she a great fielder, she was a great hitter, just one of the great USF, probably one of the most consistent players. I feel comfortable saying that has ever played the game at USF. Let's go ahead and bring in Christie-Lee Chapman-Roge. Let me try to get her up on the screen here. I'm going to move some things around here for a moment so that we can get her to be in the big.
How's it going? Can you hear me?
All right. Can you hear us, Christy? Hello? All right. I don't hear Christy, so her mic. Oh, she's muted. Hold on. Let me get her. Can you hear us, Christy?
I can hear you. Yeah.
Yep, we can hear you now, too. Thank you.
Awesome.
Yep. You were muted. I unmuted you.
We should be used to this stuff by now with work and everything. But.
I know, really. All right, I'm moving. There we go. We got it the way I wanted it now. All right, Christy, I want to thank you so very, very much for joining us on Bullseye this evening. We've been waiting for this, a couple of weeks now. Finally, the day is here. Let me ask you a question. The first thing that comes to my mind is you come from a very, very athletic family. From what I hear. I believe your grandfather was in the Olympics in 1936. I was not born yet, no matter what Bradley says. I was not born yet. I believe he won a silver medal in basketball. I know your dad. He was a pitcher in Major League Baseball. When you were growing up, knowing you came from this type of family, were you always interested in sports? Is this something did you feel like you were under some pressure to succeed as an athlete, or was it basically just something they allowed you to grow into yourself?
So I always knew that there was all the athletic, lineage, of course. But no, I never felt pressured. It was always me. It was always what I wanted to do. They let me play any sport I wanted. I played 5 sports up until my senior year of high school. It was never like you have to do this, you have to do that. It always came from my desire to compete, my desire to get better, to be the best, it sort of becomes an obsession. So all of that, like it came from me. Obviously the competitiveness, I'm sure down the line transferred over, but that drive, it always came from within me. Of course, your parents are always going to help you along the way. If you tell them you want something, they're going to keep pushing you because they know that's what you want, right? So there's always the support, but my parents were awesome. There was never the pressure to do it. It was they trusted that I was making the decisions that I wanted to make, and they helped me accomplish everything I have. So
now, you talk about your high school before we get into USF, and Bradley, you got to listen to this because it's really amazing when you think about in high school, you're named Athlete of the Year for 5 consecutive years. Okay. You played basketball, volleyball, soccer. And from 1997 to 2002, you're the MVP in volleyball and basketball as well. I think you finished your high school career in softball with a .439 batting average, a 993 fielding percentage. But let me ask you this. There's got to be a time, I would think, where you had to make a decision. What do I want to go to school for? I mean, I'm sure you had people looking at you. If you were that good in the other sports as well, I'm sure softball wasn't the only sport. When did you make the conscious decision that, hey, softball is going to be my sport I play in college?
So, well, first it was baseball. I played baseball until 9th grade. Then I switched to softball. So my love, my passion has always been baseball, softball. I played the other sports because I love to compete, and I'm from Canada. So there was actual seasons, which is different from where I am in Texas now. It's just everything's all year. So it was like, you played baseball or softball during that season. You wanted to keep competing the rest of the year, pick another sport. So I played soccer. I also had scholarship offers, D1 offers for soccer. And, in high school, Canada's a little different. We didn't have softball in actual high school. It was a select or a club situation. Same thing with soccer for the most part. They had a team, but if you were serious, you played in a club. Basketball and volleyball were school sports. Track for me was a school sport. So when it was those seasons, again, I wanted to compete. I wanted to be the athlete of the year. I wanted to, be that person. So I played, and I loved every minute of playing. I had some interest from Canadian schools for basketball and all that, but there was never really a question for me. It was always softball was my passion. So that's what it was.
So Christie, I guess an obvious question would be, I'm sure USF wasn't the only school that had offered you something. Why USF?
It really came down to, Coach Erickson. We just connected. When I came on my visit, Coach Stacy, Coach Amber, Coach Mo, there was just a connection. It was a family environment. It was an environment that I felt that I could move 5,000 miles away from my family and still succeed, and leaving your home when you're 17, and moving 5,000 miles away, that's a big deal, right? So really it was the comfort that I felt with Coach Erickson and the staff that really, made me make that decision. And he had his baseball background. Like I said, I was a baseball player first. So he didn't try to change me. He didn't try to say, well, that's a baseball swing or that's a, this, that, and the other. He was like, you're a player. I recruited you because you're a player. Go be that player. So that I respected a lot about him. And I didn't necessarily feel that would be the case with other places that were, recruiting me. So.
Now talk about the transition. You come from high school. You're obviously an MVP. Everybody knows who you are. You come to a Division I college like USF, okay? And most people will have, a little bit of nerves, a little bit of a transition period, but not Christie-Lee. Christie-Lee said, I'll just come to this team. I'll play every single game that they have. I think you started every single game that year for USF. You set a new record for freshmen with 140 assists. You on the I think it was Conference USA at that time, Commissioner's Honor Roll, your first year. Talk about that transition and how are you able to get so comfortable and compete at such that high level?
It's funny. I don't think I realized it at the time. But as you reflect back on your life, I've always put myself in those situations. When I was in 4th grade, I told my parents I wanted to play baseball in the boys' league. They thought I was crazy. Talk about, putting yourself in an uncomfortable position and seeing what you could do with it, And like I said, I played that until 9th grade. as then again, the girl that played baseball now has to prove herself in softball. Can she do it? So I did that in 10th grade. Now I'm the Canadian coming down to the US, highly recruited, blah, 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 like all that. It was kind of always just who I was, like, give me a challenge and challenge accepted. And that's where I like to live. Tell me I can't do something. That's probably the worst mistake you'll ever make.
Absolutely. Oh, I understand.
It's kind of like that was always that's just how I'm wired, I guess. Like I didn't really it wasn't really a thought.
I do understand. Because, talk about being on the big stage. What, you have another successful sophomore year. You have a successful junior year. You guys get to be on the national stage now. And you know where I'm going with the NCAA regionals. You went 3 for 5 versus UCF. You drove in a run. You scored a run. Talk about what it was like now, not just to be playing for USF, but now you're on the main stage where people in Canada can watch you on whatever, ESPN or whatever they're showing these softball regionals. How big of a moment was it for you to be involved in those regionals?
That was always the goal, right? Our class, my class, that class, we made regionals every year, right? My senior year was the first year we won it, and we went to super regionals. So that was a big deal for us. We were really close to that Women's College World Series, which was always the goal. Again, like, I guess when you're playing, you don't really think about like, oh, I'm on TV. Oh, there's a whole bunch of people watching. Like, I remember my sophomore year, we played against Team USA when, Ken was with the Olympic team, and we played at Clearwater, and there was, I don't even know how many people are there. But you just, I'm kind of like, once I get on the field, and the current coaches that I coach with now from our, my daughter's teams, and they'll attest to this. When I'm on the field, I don't hear anything, like, except for what's going on in that game. And so I guess I didn't really think about it being a big stage. It was just go take care of your business. And I kind of had this, when I was really in the zone, especially when I was playing shortstop, I kind of had this out of body experience almost, where I would feel like I was like hovering over myself playing, or I would step on the field and feel like I was like a giant, like, and the field was little. So I think just you learn to get in those zones, and that exterior stuff doesn't matter, because the second you let that matter, like, you take away your focus from what you're supposed to be doing, right? Which is playing.
Right.
So, yeah.
Now, talk about your senior year. You have another great year, but, one of the old saying, all good things must come to an end, so to speak. What was the feeling like when, your last game playing for USF, knowing that you won't have another opportunity to play for them again?
Now you're gonna make me cry.
Well, don't do that.
It's still sad. No, that's the thing. Like, all good things come to an end. I don't know. I remember being in the dugout, and it's tough. It's still tough. It just means so much to you.
Right.
So. Mm-hmm.
Well, let's talk about Coach Erickson, because I always love talking about him. I really do. If I remember correctly, now I'm going back in time, okay?
Oh, yeah.
But he was the assistant coach when you first started. I think your last year, he became the head coach. Am I right?
Yeah, I believe, like, he was, I can't remember the exact transition. I know when he was recruiting me, he was the pitching coach, because that's quite the story in itself, how he even kind of got to know that I existed. So yeah, I believe he was the assistant coach, and then I can't remember when he became the head coach exactly in that time frame, but yeah.
Well, but the amazing thing is, when you look at USF softball, and you can look at it today, even 14 years later, when you last played for USF, and you look out on the field and you still see Coach Erickson coaching these ladies. I mean, that's a lot, not just for Coach Erickson, but for the university as a whole, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah, no, it's amazing. I mean, that just speaks to, I was listening to the show before I got on, and that kind of just speaks to like USF. And that's why people should be, more invested in it, because it keeps good people, because it is such a great place to be and a great place to play. So
yeah,
that's
no doubt. Yeah.
Right. I mean, Coach Erickson, I mean, he is that program, like he's been there so long and he's kept it together, and I hope he keeps it together a few more years. Maybe my girls can come play for him too.
Wouldn't that be a story in itself?
Yeah.
Huh?
Well, my middle child, my daughter, she's 9 right now. She always tells me, I'm going to break all your records. And I'm like, go for it. Let's see what you can do. And my older one, she's a pitcher. She wanted to be, she wanted to set her own. And I'm like, all right, that's fine.
Bradley, why don't you jump in here? You have some questions for Christie?
I do, Christy. The first question I have to ask, being that you were from British Columbia, what was the biggest transition for you moving to Florida? That has to be a huge transition.
Let me see. I had to throw away all my winter clothes. No, there wasn't. Not much of a transition. I mean, when you're going into a beautiful, sunny, tropical climate, I mean, you can't. There's not much to have to get used to. I do remember though, when it was raining in the morning, I would be very nervous about practice that day, because that humidity will get you. and when I'd go home and train during the summer, and then we'd come back and do our conditioning tests, I always used to say to Ken, can we import some of the good air from Vancouver, because this stuff is killing me. So yeah, I mean, but other than that, no, I mean, everyone was great. I mean, the team, to this day, Krista Hawley, third baseman, she's one of my best friends. I remember the first thing she ever said to me, she goes, well, you look American. And it was just like, that was like instant, like, all right, me and this girl are going to get along. It was just awesome. So, so there wasn't really much of a transition in anything in that way, just getting around. And like I said, I like to put myself in those positions. So.
And the other question, Christy, was there a team that you, going into all 4 years you played at USF, was there a team that you just wanted to beat every year and stick it to them?
Well, you always want to beat every team. I mean, Ken asked me one time, do you love to win or hate to lose? And I'm like, gosh, I hate to lose, Ken. Like, come on. But I mean, really, probably, I have to go with Florida. I mean, we always got geared up for those games, and I think that was one of the biggest reasons that the regionals meant so much in my senior year, is because we, they hosted. I mean, we went 3 of my 4 years. Regionals were in Gainesville. 1 year it was in Tallahassee. But that 4th year, we finally beat it. We finally came out of that one, and we came out of it in Gainesville, and that meant a lot to us.
Now, Christy, you were born in Canada. Were you born in Canada?
Yeah. Yep. Born and raised. Yep.
Let me ask you why, because I know your dad played for the Expos.
Yeah, and the Braves. Yep.
Right. Did you ever have the chance as a child to see your dad play?
No, I didn't. No, he'd stopped. But my parents didn't have me until they were in their 30s. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I was curious because you look.
Yeah, so I never got to see him play. I mean, my dad was I got to see him coach, of course. I got to. He was the head scout of Canada for the Dodgers for my entire upbringing. So playing, no, but I would be at the ballpark with him, or at the batting cages, or whatever, like any chance I got.
So before I let you run, I got this question for you. If there's any young ladies out there that maybe in their junior year in high school, senior year in usually the decision's made end of junior year, but they have to make a decision. They want to go play Division I softball. Why would you tell them to go to USF?
Oh man. So many reasons. I mean, it's really like a family there. And to me, that's what sports should be, especially for girls, right? Like, what's the end game for girls? Not a lot of us are good. I mean, unless you're a tennis player or a golfer, I mean, you might make it and then that's your job. But other than that, the end game is getting a really good education, which is what I got, which has helped me tremendously, succeed in the, adult part of my life. That's that academic support at the university was phenomenal. I mean, the facilities are beautiful, the climate's beautiful. But like I said, it's like Coach Erickson, he makes it a family, and it's when you're away from home and that's all you're doing is almost every day of your life for 4 years, like that stuff's important, So the love for the game and the love for the people that you're there with, like that was always first and foremost. When Coach Erickson, was presenting something, so it really just made you comfortable in what you're doing. When you're comfortable, then you can perform. So
and it's one thing about Coach Erickson that I noticed. I know I said that was going to be the last question, but you made a terrific point. That it seems like a lot of, and Bradley can attest to this, a lot of the people that we have on this show obviously are former athletes of USF, and we've had probably 4 or 5 softball players in the last couple of months on here. But the one thing that is amazing to me, and Bradley, you can piggyback on this if you want, is that every time you see an award, whether it's yourself, we had Mo Triner on a couple of weeks ago, it seems like before the award, if it says athlete, the word academic always seems to be somewhere in there. I mean, this is a school that really cares, just as much, if not more, about you getting an education as they do a successful athletic career, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Like, that perspective is huge. Like I said, the end game for 99% of female athletes is that education. So it absolutely should be a focus, of the program to graduate their players. And it was always a focus that we were like one of, if not the top academic team in the conference. Like, that wasn't a mistake. Like, that was like he used to say, you better keep your house clean. And that meant you better handle your schoolwork, because if you're not handling your schoolwork, then you're not going to be able to handle what you're supposed to be doing on the field. So that was always a focus for sure.
Yeah, and we were talking before you came out about the great basketball coach, women's basketball coach, Jose Fernandez, and how he has been over the last 20 years one of the best women's basketball coaches in probably the nation. Well, I think it's safe I know it's safe for me to say that Coach Erickson, when it comes to softball, definitely has to fit in that category as well.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. Well, listen, Christy, I want to thank you so very, very much for joining us on Bullseye today to take time out of your busy schedule. I know appreciate it, and I know both Bradley and I appreciate it as well.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. I just want to say hi to my Riptide 2K11 girls that are watching. Oh, here comes my son.
There they are. Waiting for them, Bradley.
Say hi. There you go. Say hi. That's great.
How are you?
He's the lefty. He's got the lefty hammer. So keep an eye out for that one, too, in a few years.
He looks like he's got mama's color hair, too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
All right. You have a good night.
So
You guys, how are you guys okay in Texas now? I heard you got some pretty bad luck.
Last week was interesting. We've had some damage to our home, and we're dealing with that right now. But you just got to keep swinging, right? So we'll get through it. No.
Well, you're safe. You're safe. That's what really matters.
Yeah.
Stay safe, and we look forward to hearing from you soon.
All right. I really appreciate you having me on. Thank you so much. And hopefully be on again sometime. I had a lot of fun.
All right, you got it.
All right.
Stay safe.
Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Say bye.
Bye. All right, there he goes. I'll tell you what. See, her kids are already worried about breaking her records, Bradley. That's somebody you want to start recruiting now. I mean, they want to break all of mama's, and they're pretty. You look in the USF record books, and she may not be first in the categories, but her name is all over the record books, and that just shows you how consistent of a player that Christie-Lee Chapman was. Just a great, great player, and such a huge honor to have on such a great person like that on our show. But once again, before we get back to a couple of the other roundups on these sports, once again, and I mentioned it to Christy there, and I know you're going to do your part and say, nobody ever talks bad about US. It's true. I mean, every athlete that we have on here has said, and, I expect them to say it about Coach Erickson. I'm not going to lie to you. I expect them to say it about Coach Fernandez. These guys have been here, and Coach Gregory now has been here a couple of years too. But, when you don't have a coach that is here 15, 20 years that isn't liked or doesn't do well for the program. It just doesn't happen in college. You're in an area now where you're in that position where you are hired to get fired, and these guys are here 15, 20 years. Just says a lot for the individuals, whether it's past athletic directors or presidents that have really selected both these guys to be coaches for them.
Yeah. Again, Larry, you took the words out of my mouth. Again, another interview where they have not said anything negative about USF at all. Obviously, Christie's mentioned that, again, guys, she transferred from Canada down to Florida. That was a question I saw that. I'm like, I'm going to have to ask her what the biggest transition was moving from Canada down to Florida, where it doesn't snow. We don't have cold weather here. So it was kind of interesting to ask her that question. But yeah, again, when you have coaches like Fernandez and Erickson and, hopefully guys, cross our fingers, maybe Jeff Scott will be here for a long while as well. And Coach Gregory as well. It makes it easier when you have the same coaches every year and you're not transitioning from a different style of basketball, different style of football, different style of softball. When it's staying steady, it's great because as a recruit, what you're going to be getting, what you're going to be coming into, instead of having to worry about, oh, great, now am I going to fit in that system? You don't have to worry about that when it comes to the coaches at USF.
No. Now let's run down a couple of the other sports, and I'll at times ask you to interject. But for those of you listening, the women's volleyball team had an incredible weekend. They swept ECU Thursday 3-1. It was their first road victory of the season. They were led by freshman Martyr. I believe it's pronounced Kogovic. She led the team in kills for actually the last five straight games. And then in the second game of this sweep, she also led them again in kills. This game was a little closer. It was 3-2. And they play again March 4th now. So they got a little bit of layoff. They're 5-3, 3-1 in the AAC for them. But the big upset I was telling you about, Bradley, was men's soccer, the war on I-4. Oscar Asano at the 12th minute started the scoring with a free kick. The Bulls up 1-0 lead. Then it was later, and listen to this. They're leading 1-0 at halftime, Bradley. It was the only shot they had on net the entire half was a free kick, and they're leading 1-0. That's just incredible how they did that. Then, so they were outshot 11-1. Okay. Then Enrique Galeana, who also had a big award, it's on our USF Bullseye page, scored in the 54th minute for the second goal. It was a corner kick assisted by sophomore Victor Claudel. They went ahead to win this game 2-1. And Bradley, I'll tell you, it doesn't matter what sport it is. If it's football, basketball, baseball, softball, soccer. When you play, I mean, you want to win all the time, but there's a little bit more oof in you when you play against UCF, isn't there?
Yeah, Larry. I mean, again, like you just said, that obviously when you only have one shot on goal, I mean, let's just compare that to say like hockey. You have one shot on goal for the entire period, and yet you lead going into the half 1-0. That's damn good. That's damn good defense. Your goaltender obviously was great. So yeah, that's again, the athletics at USF are so great, but yet like we were just talking about, you don't see them because they're not in the nation's eye, because they're not big as the Michigans and the Ohio States and the Floridas and all that stuff. Not, and then that we got to build it to that level. It just hasn't got there yet. And hopefully, maybe this will get passed on, Larry, to Michael Kelly, and he'll say, hey, these two guys are trying to help us out, and we got to get some getting here to get this program in the nation's eye, not just in Florida.
Absolutely. And understand this, that was the men's soccer team. But how about the women's soccer team? They're 2-0, Bradley. You're talking about what people don't realize because it's not in the public eye even here. Let's call it the local public eye even. I mean, they defeated Temple 2-0. Katie Kitchens, senior midfielder, made it 1-0 at the 7th minute with an assist by Paula LeBlick, who also ended up scoring the second goal to give them the 2-0 lead. The Owls only had 2 shots on goal, the Temple Owls. So it just shows you how great this defense was for the USF Bulls women team. So they're now 2-0 on the season. Unfortunately, baseball wasn't as successful. Lost 3 games. They were swept this weekend. I believe it was by FGCU. They lost the first game, was a decent game. It went to extra innings. Actually, Jack Jaziak went 6.1 innings, 5 strikeouts, 3 hits for USF. The Bulls had 12 hits, but they left 15 runners on base. In the second game, they lose 11-6. A 2-run double in the 9th by Roberto Pena helped them score some runs, and then they lost 12-10 Sunday in Game 3. And in that game, Bradley, they had a 7-0 lead at one time and ended up losing 12-10. But saw some good things. Matt Ruiz, a couple of the freshmen stood out. Matt Ruiz, 8 for 16. Drew Butcher, 5 for 11 with 5 walks, and Daniel Cantu had 4 RBI. So that's good. But the problem is this, Bradley. They have 35 hits in 3 games. They were only 11 of 48 with runners in scoring position, and they stranded 44 runners. That is not a formula in baseball, as you know, to win. You have to, it's not whether you get a hit or not. It's when those hits come, how timely those hits are. And if you want to win at any level of baseball, you have to learn how to manufacture runs and get guys in when they're in scoring position. And when you look at that total, 44 runners stranded in 3 games, it's not a wonder why they didn't win those ball games.
Yeah, when they go 11 for 48 and strain 44, that's tough sledding. That's a lot of guys left on base, and that's a lot of runs left out there. As the one Vince Scully would say, you left a lot of ducks on the pond. There's too many. You can't win baseball games, and I don't care what level it is, whether it's high school, college, or even in MLB. You got to hit when you have runners in scoring position, because I know a lot of today's baseball, at least in the major league level, is live or die by the home run. But, there are still ways to score runs by hitting singles and doubles and triples and getting your guys around. And what we don't see, Larry, I mean, you can justify this because I grew up in a different era of baseball. You don't see bunts and suicide squeezes anymore.
Nope.
They just don't do that. And actually, there's something right there that a lot of, young baseball players struggle with. They can't bunt. Nobody can bunt the ball anymore. So, but yeah, you have to score runs when you have runners in scoring position. You can't leave 44 guys on base.
And it also kills the morale of your pitching staff. Not that I want to make excuses for pitchers giving up runs or hits or whatever it might be, but you got to understand something. When you're a pitcher and you see all these guys on base and none of them are scoring, and you're constantly going out there giving your team great innings, and then you come in to no avail and they score no runs, and then, it's a couple of outs and you're back on the other side of the field again, it gets very demoralizing from a pitcher's standpoint. So the mental aspect of the game definitely takes its turn as well.
Yeah. I mean, again, when you see pitchers get mad because, they have runners in scoring and they have a chance to kind of pad in the lead where they're not having to throw perfect innings, or if they make a mistake, it's not going to cost them. When you leave a lot of runners on base and pitchers are like that, they're going to get very, very upset. And like you said, the morality will be down. They're like, okay, well, I've done everything I can. Why aren't you guys helping me? You're not helping me. So, yeah.
Well, we hope this weekend they play Florida A&M. I believe that's a 3-game series as well. Let's hope they can come back on track, at least take 2 of 3, if not possibly 3 of 3, and get back to 500. On the other side, the women's softball team split with Jacksonville. And what a game this was, the first game of the series. Game 1, Georgina Carrick, who you definitely want on the hill, is a #1 pitcher for USF women's softball. She goes 8 innings, 4 hits, 13 strikeouts. The game was decided on a walk-off home run by redshirt freshman Jordan Cadleb when she hit that walk-off home run to win it 1-0 for the Bulls. So great win. Great way of staying in the game, playing great defense, and winning. Unfortunately, the defense fell apart in game 2, where the Bulls had 5 errors in that game. The 6th inning was just atrocious. They committed 3 errors. They hit 3 batsmen, and then a grand slam by Jacksonville's Kaylee Harrigan just put that game away. They will play February 27th versus FAU. And then the last thing, the women's tennis knocked off Liberty 4-3 Sunday. So I'm telling you what, we talk about sports out there. There's a lot of action going on at USF. Lots of action. We just went through, I don't know how many sports, but it just tells you how busy this time of year is in college athletics, and it's so happy to have it back, even if it's limited or a very small amount of fans. And from what I'm understanding, this Saturday's games in baseball will allow limited fans. I'm not 100% official, but I saw it on the commercial that they were doing that it was. So the latest I'm hearing, they are allowing limited fans. For those of you people listening to us, whether it's live right now on Northeast Streaming Sports, on Bullseye, I know we have listeners from the UK right now, or on any other USF platform, if you're here in the state of Florida, in the Tampa area, and you're looking for something inexpensive and fun to do, go out and support the USF Bulls Athletic Department. They're doing everything they can to put a great team on the field. We have, like Bradley said, the women, I think, have a couple of games. I think they have one coming up this weekend after tomorrow's game versus Temple. I think it's Houston or someone they play. So if those are home games, and I'm not looking at the schedule, try to get out if they start allowing fans back in the Yingling Center.
I think, Larry, they only have 1 home game left. I think they have 3 road.
That's UCF then.
Yep.
Okay. So those are way, but you can watch it, whether it's ESPNU or ESPN Plus, whatever. Watch the game, enjoy these kids. And I'll tell you what, watch the women's basketball team. Okay. We are watching something that is about to be very, very potentially amazing here in the city of Tampa, because the colleges are getting involved in championships too. And if there's any team right now at USF that has a chance to go far in these tournaments, you got to put the women's basketball team up there because they are looking sweet right now. And hopefully this COVID thing, since most of the players have gotten it, maybe that means they only get it once. Let's hope so. And that we can move on and get past that part of it, because nothing be better than them to play in this tournament with a complete team and play the way they know how to. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Bradley Lewis Walker and myself, we first of all want to thank Christie-Lee Chapman-Roge for coming on tonight with us. What a great interview. If you have friends that you think would enjoy the interview, go ahead and share it to their timeline. We want to also, of course, I want to thank Bradley and everyone else for tuning in tonight. We'll be back next week. I'm trying to get a very surprise guest, and I don't name him until I'm 100% sure. But as always, we will do our best to get the best guest possible for you. Remember, go Bulls, and let's get out and support. Which one? I almost put my middle finger up there. All right, there we go. I'm a righty, you see? All right, Bulls, horns up, guys. We'll see you next week on Bulls.